I mean, there are a couple of ways to read that. Every company in the semiconductor industry is a cyclical company because the semiconductor industry is by its nature cyclical. How long these cycles last, when they peak and trough, that's something that a lot brighter people than me try to pick and choose from, and that's how you make your money as an investor. What we can say is, just by the numbers alone, that it's in unprecedented territory. Where its revenue is, not to mention its market cap, as you just pointed out. We've never seen anything like this.
Does it make sense to you, someone who understands this industry and has followed it for so long?
I think you have to just fall back on the numbers, Carol, and let investors decide whether it makes any sense. So on a price to earnings ratio, 52 times, doesn't sound totally crazy, and that doesn't even get it into the top 10 list of semiconductor makers. So relatively, it's not that expensive. No other semiconductor company has ever had more than $100 billion of revenue ever, not even Intel at its peak.
Yeah.
Nvidia blew past 120 last year. This year, it's probably going to be closer to 200. So again, the numbers say it's achieving more than any other chip maker has ever achieved, and it's still doing that at a relatively profitable rate.
There's also a report out there, I think it's the FT today, and it's Nvidia planning to launch a new AI chip design specifically for China as soon as September, with Jensen Huang, of course, planning to a visit to reassert the company's commitment to the country. Again, I'm just reporting what FT is saying. I'm just curious what you're hearing about that, or is it also just a sign of him trying to kind of continuing to figure out his next market move and where he needs to be, and making sure he's kind of getting to all the possible customer audiences that are out there?
I think the way to look at that kind of reporting and the reporting that we've done on this area is this is the one kind of cloud on the horizon for this company, which is China is the largest market in the world for semiconductors. That country and its companies want to spend a ton of money on AI infrastructure. They cannot spend money on Nvidia chips because of the US government. So Jensen is going to probably be in Washington soon, going to be in Beijing soon. He's doing lots of shuffling between the two because he has two masters to please. One that controls what he can do, the other that can arguably pay his wages to a large extent. They were already losing billions of dollars in revenue that they can't, because they can't sell into China. So this, is symptomatic of what he has to do. He has to find a way through this, and that'll, make their growth even better than it is right now. Long term, he's saying and arguing vehemently about this, that, look, if we can't do business in China, they'll find another way to do this, and that will hurt us.
Well, speaking of China, perhaps the perfect segue to talk about today's big take. It's a Bloomberg exclusive. It's an analysis that shows how China is building giant data centers in the desert to fuel its AI ambitions. And it's looking to buy 115,000 banned Nvidia chips to power them. Ian, you were one of the reporters who worked on this piece. How is China going to get its hands on these chips?
I mean, it's very important to point out, as we do in the story, that while there is some evidence or some belief that some of Nvidia's banned products are making their way across the border, there's no evidence that enough to even constitute a sort of medium-sized data center are making it across the border. So obviously this is something we're monitoring, something that the government is monitoring, and something that, certainly Nvidia and its customers will be held accountable for. But, there's a gap between the desire and what's actually possible right now, as far as at least the reporting in that story would indicate.
I also do wonder, it just is a reminder, too, of China's own AI ambitions and what it's looking to do. And if it's not with Nvidia chips, it'll make its own, or it'll figure another way.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of conversations, including by Nvidia, and they're saying, look, Huawei, before all of the actions taken by the US government against it, was a very competent company. Of course, we've slowed it down. Of course, we've made it more difficult, but it's still a very competent company. Forced into the situation that it's in, it's going to find its own way. Might take it a while, but guess what? It'll get there. Do not underestimate it, is one of the big arguments that's being made there. And perhaps if we're not going to allow other countries, maybe they go to China.